Yo, 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 what it do, what it go, how it go, whatever I be saying. It's the internet's favorite fake uncle. Listen, off rip, I'm not talking about no Eagles today, man. Don't even ask me. I am not in a good mood concerning that. So don't even ask me about it. All I got to say is something need to change by January. You feel me? That's about it. At this point, I don't even care what it looked like during the season. I'm probably going to be taking games off, to be honest, because this team is a chore to watch at this point. But something got to change by the time we get to playoff time. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that. I wanted to wrap with y'all real quick about this Olivia Dean and Ticketmaster situation. For those of y'all who may not know, Olivia Dean is off rip. She's an artist. She's a musician. I'm trying to find a way to describe her music. I hesitate to call it neo soul because she very obviously has some strong pop sensibilities. It's like soul music with pop DNA to it, if that makes, or maybe the other way around. It's like pop music with soul DNA to it. You know what I mean? I like it. I enjoy her stuff. Matter of fact, she had an album drop this year that I really enjoyed. So yeah, y'all should check her out if you haven't already. But really, what I wanted to talk about with her is I saw this story. Matter of fact, I saw it this morning, where, long story short, she became abreast of, the exorbitant ticket prices that Ticketmaster that were showing up on Ticketmaster for her concerts, right? And basically, she made a big enough stink about it that Ticketmaster turned around and wound up refunding a bunch of people their money from paying the upcharge on the resales, right? Which now opens up a few conversations, right? And in order for us to have those conversations, we got to start right here, right? Because the age, the demographic of this channel specifically, it shifts and swivels and changes depending upon specifically what I'm talking about. So some of y'all may not be aware of this, but back in my day, you dig what I'm saying? And this kind of gets into, because, you've seen me and other people talk about, you got a bunch of artists these days that are just not built to make records. Like I've said this before, is that I love Glorilla. You feel me? Glorilla is one of my favorite, not even female, just favorite rappers right now, period. But in my opinion, Glorilla is not really built to make an album. You know what I'm saying? She's not built to make a project like that. And that's because the ecosystem that created Glorilla is not one that incentivizes the creation of albums, that incentivizes the creation of complete, 12, 15, 18 track projects that all, feel cohesive, right? That feel like one big, movie or whatever. And here's the reason why, is because back 20 years ago, an artist's bread and butter was selling records. 20 years ago, album sales did matter. That's why all these people talk about first week sales, all that other stuff, all that other garbage or whatever. At the end of the day, they just talking out the ass, because it don't matter. It don't matter the way that it did, because you don't make your money by selling records no more, right? Back in the day, as an artist, matter of fact, back in the day, as an artist, you made like a quarter. Off of every album sold, you made like, a quarter, right? You made 15 cents, you made a dime, whatever it was in your contract. You feel me? And this is why you even had some artists who were so big, like, for example, the Beatles. The Beatles got so big to the point that they said, we not touring no more because y'all people act too crazy. You feel me? We feel like our lives is in danger every time we get on stage. So they said, we not touring anymore. We just going to release music. And that's how we're going to make our money. If I'm not mistaken, Sgt. Pepper's might have been the first album that they did that with. I'm probably wrong. It was probably something before that, probably like Abbey Road or something. I ain't no big Beatles head like that, so I don't know the timeline of the discography. So yeah, there you had that. But you can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore because of, sites like Napster and LimeWire. Really, if you ask me, like, Napster opened the floodgate, but really it was when LimeWire and FrostWire came into the fold. Because even when you had Napster, you still had kids like me who either didn't have internet access. We talking about the late 90s, early 2000s now. So didn't have internet access, or your internet was so slow. Because I remember even when LimeWire became a thing, I remember, keeping the computer on all night, you feel me, just to download 12, 15 songs, you feel me, off of a Gangsta Girls mixtape. You dig what I'm saying? But that's what we was working with because you needed a phone line back then. In order to have internet access, you needed to have access to a phone line. And if somebody needed to make a phone call, then you needed to disconnect. And then that just, screwed up your whole download. So yeah, there you had that. But anyway, I would say around the end of my high school, definitely by the time I was, I graduated college in 2013. So definitely by the time that I was in college, like in college, right? People weren't buying CDs anymore. You dig what I'm saying? This is when vinyl started becoming popular again, and vinyl became popular as not necessarily as a means to consume music, but vinyl became popular as merch. You feel me? That's what it is today. Vinyl is the primary appeal of vinyl today is as merch. You dig what I'm saying? But what happened was a shift where the artist no longer made the bulk of their bread off of record sales, because you couldn't, because people was, just pirating everything. Then the model switched so they said, all right, if we can't beat them, then join them. And then that's when everything became streaming. You dig what I'm saying? Everything became, Spotify, all of that, whatever. With Spotify got its own stuff with how, they be screwing artists out of, money from streams and whatever and whatnot. But my point being that it created an ecosystem where now the artist's bread and butter wasn't made from making music. The artist's bread and butter came from getting people to come see them live. You dig what I'm saying? Back in the day, the purpose of a concert, and this is why ticket sale, you could go and you could get good tickets to something like the Scream Tour. Y'all remember the Scream? Y'all who don't remember what the Scream Tour was, the Scream Tour was, all the the black teeny bopper, bands or artists. You dig what I'm saying? All of the, the 106 in Park, man, your Bow Wows, your B2Ks, your Bobby Valentinos and Pretty Ricky, all of that and whatever and whatnot, used to do this big countrywide tour in the summertime when, all of the girls was out of school and whatnot, called the Scream Tour, right? And you could get tickets to that for you and the little girl that you was trying to talk to, that you was trying to date or whatever. And you can get them joints for like $20, and they was half decent seats. And I'm not even counting, inflation driving the price up, but just because of the fact that the purpose of a tour back in the day wasn't necessarily to make a bunch of money, but the purpose of the tour back in the day was to promote the album. You know what I mean? That was the purpose of going on tour, to the point that if you were big enough, A lot of times you ain't even bother going on tour. Or if you did, you just did, you know, those big, like arena, you just did like a GNX tour. You feel me? Kendrick ain't going to like, you know, he going to all of the big cities. You feel me? He going to, you know, or he went to, you know, Philadelphia and New York and Chicago and, you know, LA and Toronto and all that kind of stuff. He ain't going to like, you know, New Brunswick, New Jersey, you know what I mean, to, you know, college town like that. You feel what I'm saying? He not doing that. Because he's big enough and he's a big enough draw where not only that, but people will pay exorbitant prices for those tickets to go see Kendrick Lamar. You feel what I'm saying? And that's where and how Kendrick, you feel me, makes the bulk of his money as an artist. And that's really how it's been. You know, this is the part of the reason why, you know, Drake, you feel me, never stops touring, right? That's part of why Drake never stops touring, because that's his bread and butter. That's how he makes his money, is by people coming to come see him. And this is why, you know, and I talked about this on Maine before about, you know, how we'll never have another Mike, never have another Prince. Part of what made Mike's run in the 80s and in the 90s, though, that concert tour run where he was breaking record after record after record, part of what made that so impressive was, again, during Mike's heyday, the point of a tour, again, was to promote the album, right? So you weren't charging, you feel me? I mean, not to say that you weren't, because there were people that were paying hundreds of dollars to go see Mike in the 80s, to go see Mike in the 90s. You know what I mean? But you didn't have to charge it. It was more so a fact, because it was more so the fact that people were willing to pay that much to go see him when they could just sit at home and listen to Thriller on their own time. You know what I mean? And that's what made that so impressive, is that not only is it the fact, because even then, yeah, you did have people paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but the bulk of folk, you know, are paying like 20, 50, you know what I mean, $70 to go see Michael Jackson live. You feel me? In a big giant arena in Berlin or Munich somewhere. And that's what makes that so much more impressive, is because it's more impressive, in my opinion, to make $100 million off of a tour where the average cost of a ticket is like $75 than it is to make that amount of money when the average cost is like, you know, $4 or something. It's not as impressive to me. So I say that to circle back around to Ticketmaster, right? Because here's the thing with Ticketmaster, is that Ticketmaster, so all of these artists, they have deals with Ticketmaster, with Live Nation or whatever, that the artist makes a certain amount of money off of every ticket that's sold. You feel me? They get a percentage off of every ticket that's sold, right? That's not how Ticketmaster make their money. Ticketmaster don't make their money off of the sale of, let me rephrase that. Ticketmaster doesn't make their money off of selling tickets. They make their money off of tickets being sold and the fee that they charge when you sell a ticket at a certain price, right? So if I'm an artist, the only time that I get paid is when, you know, Joe Schmo from, you know, Kokomo, Missouri or something, you know, Kalamazoo, Missouri, you know, buys my ticket from off of Live Nation. You dig what I'm saying? If I'm Ticketmaster, I get paid not only when that happens, but let's say that Joe Schmo from Kalamazoo is a scalper, right? And he got an army of bots that are programmed that the minute that those tickets go on sale, we just go and buy them up, buy them up, buy them up, buy them up. And then we going to resell them, you feel me, for like 5 times the price. I get paid when the bot buys it, and I also get paid a fee for when Joe Schmo sells that ticket to somebody who couldn't get it when it got released because the bot bought it. You feel what I'm saying? So I also get paid when that person, you know, grandma died, and so I gotta fly down to Texas for the funeral, you feel me, on, you know, the day of the concert. So now I'm going to resell that ticket to somebody else so that I can get my money back, right? Because you can't, when you buy the ticket from a reseller, you're not going to get your money back unless you have an agreement with that reseller. You know, Ticketmaster don't got nothing to do with that at that point. You know what I mean? But they still make money off of the ticket being sold, which, you know what I mean? So what winds up happening is now you create an environment, you create an ecosystem that not only facilitates, but it encourages scalping, right? And Ticketmaster knows this, and Ticketmaster exploits it and takes advantage of it. And that's the thing that, you know, people, you know, artists like Coldplay, you feel me, I've been calling out. Dua Lipa, I think, called it out at one time. You know, you got a bunch of different rappers who've been calling Ticketmaster down on the carpet, you feel me, is that on top of cutting us out, which that's not an insignificant part of the motivation, but on top of cutting us out of money that we could be making off of these resales, you now make it so that these live events where that's how we make our money. You now make it so that these live events are inaccessible for the bulk of our audience who cannot afford to pay 4 bills, 5 bills, 6 bills. You know what I mean? The bulk of us have, again, unless you like Beyonce or something, like somebody who has like a fanatical, like a cult-like following that it don't matter, or Taylor Swift or somebody, people who will leave the country and go to another country to go see you live because it's cheaper to see you in Sweden, to catch a flight, book a hotel, and then to watch you in like Denmark or something than it is to, you know, buy a ticket stateside. The vast majority of artists rather don't have, you know, cult-like followings like that. You know what I mean? And if they do, they don't have the volume like a Beyonce has or like a Taylor Swift has, right? So you making it so my audience is unable to come see me live, right? And so what that not only, you feel me, digs into my pocket, right? But it also, you know, makes it so I'm less accessible, you feel me, to my audience, you feel me? And so it opens up this conversation, I feel like, which I don't have an answer to. It opens up this conversation, I feel like, of, you know, well, how much responsibility does the artist have to make? Because the easy thing to say is, oh, well, everybody should be like Olivia, which kudos to her, clap it up for her, you feel me, for having the balls to stand on her square and say, you know, nah, y'all not doing this with my concerts, right? But it's real easy to say everybody should be like Olivia. You dig what I'm saying? It's real easy to say that, but again, this is how they make their money. You dig what I'm saying? It's not, I've seen, you know, interviews, right? And I've seen artists talk about where they got teams of people who scalp their own tickets. Scalp their own tickets and then resell them at a halfway reasonable price in order to bypass the scalpers who are going to go and buy, you feel me, a $50 ticket and then charge you $1,000 for it. So now they got teams of people who are out there, you feel me, buying up all the tickets to keep them away from the scalpers, right? So it becomes, so it is, to me, it's a really interesting, it's a really complex situation. Complex, you know, conversations to be had here. You feel me? I should probably get somebody, like, I should probably get on stream with like open mic Igor, like Screwface or somebody to like really get into it. You know, people who, you know, this is their profession, right? Because I'm obviously I'm always going to, you know, have limited knowledge, but yeah, just wanted to chop it up with y'all about that a little bit today. So yeah, deuces, God bless.